I mean, they're also doing bad energy growth with all the coal plants, but they're also doing a lot of wind farms. And a lot of rail.
And that's the problem. Okay, when you look at wind, and we have major politicians talking about it, we got factories here that are bombed out, for crying out loud, that we could have the building of wind tunnels here and stuff like that, right on the water.
Mills and factories.
We've got the mills, and that's what we should be doing. But China's doing it. China is doing the manufacturing, and we're not building anything.
Yeah. Most of the stuff, that I talk about and teach about, up at Northeastern and stuff, this is stuff that we know. This is stuff that has worked in other cities. This is stuff that has worked in other countries. Nothing that I've put out there in my platform, and there's a lot in it, is reinvented the wheel. I mean, this is well-supported, well-documented stuff. New London just doesn't have it on the radar screen.
Right.
Well, I think I was trying to beat you up tonight. I think I got beaten up. I was looking for justification for all this stuff, from education to
planning and development here.
Planning and development, and we did talk about obviously the grant writer, right? Because I really believe that is one of the most important things that you talk about that nobody else is. They talked about a part-time person and stuff like that.
Someone with training, professional, doing it all day, every day.
And not everybody can do it. That's
someone
that knows how to write the grants.
Yes, right. I knew that.
It's not easy at all.
Legislative liaison.
You don't like that.
You don't like it.
Right.
All right.
No, and you know why? Because I think this is Ernie's job. Okay, as a Democrat, if we need a legislative liaison, then Ernie Hewitt isn't doing his job, as far as I'm concerned. You may think differently.
I completely disagree for this reason. It's an entirely different role. Legislators work within their parties, they work within committees, they have different personal relationships. It's very difficult for a legislator who represents a district and works within one chamber to represent the entire interests of the city government, which is separate and apart from the state government. Other cities and towns have this lobbyist. Bridgeport has one, very effective, because it's not just up there pushing for money. It's up there also lobbying for the extension of Shoreline East rail. It's up there lobbying for don't send any more junk that you don't want down our way because you've sent enough. There's a lot that this position can do. And hey, let's face it, I worked in the U.S. Senate. I worked in the Rhode Island State Legislature. I worked for the New York City Council. I've worked for legislatures. Lobbyists run the show. I don't have lobbyists working on my campaign. I don't take money from lobbyists. I don't like it. But if you're up there and you're the big oil company and you got your big lobbyists, well, guess what? You're the one getting the tax breaks. If your region and your city is unrepresented in the lobbying world up there, you are at a shortcoming, because the other cities have both their legislators and their lobbyists.
Okay, so
we're very strong.
Well, this is what we're talking about. We're talking a lobbyist liaison. I look at a little different position of okay, but we're talking about the city's lobbyists for us at the state level.
That does not mean that the mayor shouldn't be up there too. For all the key hearings, testimony, absolutely. It doesn't mean that the legislators shouldn't be up there busting their hump. They should and they do. This is an added position that helps, because the legislators have a different role to play, and the mayor can't be up there all the time. In one of our previous debates, or it wasn't actually a debate, it was in the testimony before the council, I know Councilor Perro said, well, this is the job of the mayor. The mayor should be up there. The mayor can't be up there all the time. The reason why lobbyists are so successful is because they're there at every hearing, at every subcommittee, at every event. They stay till 2 in the morning, and they develop long-term relationships with these legislators, so that when they go to the legislator says, oh yeah, I know you, I've come to trust you, yeah, give me that information. The mayor can't be up there doing that. He's got to be in New London running the show. Right. You go up for the big hearings, and the legislative lobbyists can help you prep for those hearings, But you need somebody that's up there working it.
Hopefully it's cleared the way. So
all the time.
So instead of legislative liaison, because I found that term ambiguous, you're meaning more lobbyist.
Yeah, I'm being lobbyist.
Two different things. In my thoughts.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I guess I used a bad word and you scored a hit with that. How about that? You point Father Russ. See, the beat up is not going one way.
I'm not getting shot.
Nope, you're going the distance. You're going the distance.
No. Well, it's confusing. Okay, and that's I can see that. I can understand what you're talking about there, and yes, I can see the need. And you've got somebody who's on the pulse and everything that's going on in a very different way than a legislator working on stuff. Okay,
and plus, if they're there at some hearing at 11 o'clock at night and something's about to go down, they can pick up the phone and say, "Mr. Mayor, get on the phone right now, or else something's gonna, that kind of thing."
No, okay, that's a lobbyist. That's
which makes more sense. I was under the impression, obviously wrongly, that New London had a full-time grants coordinator. Writer.
No.
Okay. I thought one of the other candidates here had mentioned that. So no.
Nope. I verified it, and all the other candidates opposed it, and they all are on the council. They voted on the budget. I proposed it during the budget. I proposed it at the budget hearing itself. I was one of only 3 people that spoke at that hearing, and they did not add in the position.
So they all want to look for grants, but not have anybody to actually do it.
And our grants were cut this year.
Well, without a grant coordinator,
our grants went down.
Somebody has to be on top of that. The new ones and the deadlines.
There are people in all different departments writing grants, and there are all sorts of people around, but there isn't a full-time city grants coordinator.
Okay.
Because that person can also be a resource. If you go into these, MPA schools like I went to, where they literally train you how to do this, you get some young person who'll, take this job and bust their hump, got a lot of energy, got the best new training in how to go through these procedures. Not only do they help the city, but they're a resource when someone calls from fill-in-the-blank organization in the city and says,
needs help.
"Boy, I need help. I don't know how to do this." There's a resource for them as well.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. No, I'm a big believer in having a coordinator like that in all cities and
training that. I mean, we know from trying to write them ourselves that if you don't know, we've tried it. If we don't know, if you don't know how to write them,
plus you got to find them.
You got to find them first.
Exactly right.
And half that person's job is going to be sitting on the computer all day looking for applications.
Well, that's the other thing about the lobbyists. When you're talking about grants that come down, they would get a heads up before you even know about them at the state level.
That's right.
And
well, if you make that connection,
these money is key.
Here's a number for you. It was 45. It's gone down this year slightly. 42% of the budget, the $80 million budget enacted by the City Council, 42% comes from federal and state money and grants. 42%. Now, I've proposed 2 positions that even with salary and benefits and everything in an $80-point-something million budget would be less than $200,000 to preserve and try to expand the 42% of the budget. And my attitude is, if you're not for trying to expand money from those sources, how are you not going to increase taxes? Because where else are you going to
get the money?
And guess what? Costs of government, whether you like it or not, go up every single year.
Absolutely.
So if you hold to that commitment, like Mr. Perro has, that I will not increase taxes in the first 2 years, my response is, okay, what essential services are going to be denied?
Yeah, well, that's my thoughts too.
Because we're not going to fund what we should be funding.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing even recently with the governor's campaign when people were saying, oh, but so-and-so says they're going to raise taxes. Well, how else are we going to take care of the problems we have?
Well, straight and honest
No, I'm not criticizing. I'm saying it has to be.
It has to be.
You have to pay,
and I think, I really think that times are changing. And I told you about the phone calls that we do and our organization does.
People are tired of hearing the BS.
And we can raise them a little less.
People can understand, okay, I got to pay more money because we're going to do this, or I got to save this or something, okay, and I got to pay more money. It's why do I have to pay more money and not get anything?
Right.
Is what the problem is. Why am I watching things go down the tubes? Why haven't all these years, in 20 years, you haven't fixed the school and made it comply with ADA when we shouldn't be at a point now where we're under threat of losing close to $8 million?
Right.
Because we're not. Where did you fail us?
Right.
Right.
And I think the number one thing for people to understand about me is that some people may like certain positions, they may dislike others. But I've been very detailed and taken my message directly to the public throughout this campaign, will continue to do so, saying, this is what I'm really going to do. And some of the stuff I'm saying, I know people don't like. But I also know, like you do, that people are fed up. You know, they've been hearing the same old rhetoric from the same old folks forever. All my life, I've been doing this stuff now in public service 20 years. I have heard the same lines from Democrats, Republicans, everybody in between, over and over and over and over. I'm sick of it. You know, I would rather someone tell me, here's the reality we got to deal with, and let's deal with it. Because what we've been doing at the federal level with all these tax cuts for the upper 2%, at the state level with all of our taking the tobacco funds and spending them like it's going to be revenue that's there forever, and then when it runs out we wonder why we're in trouble. You know, at the city level, holding the line on this and that while everything else crumbles. All we've been doing is pushing it down the road, pushing it down the road, pushing it down the road. Well, it's time to deal with it. It's time to deal with it. We've hit the federal debt ceiling point at the federal government level. We're in a severe problem at the state level, and look at the city of New London and tell me that things don't have to change. So I just think that people out there, they may not like everything I'm saying, but I think they're going to have confidence that I am not just selling them another line to get elected. I'm really trying to tackle these problems, and I think we can do it. But yeah, it's going to be hard, and yeah, it might cost money. Well, but we can do it, and you know, if we go with the way we've been doing things, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. None of us want to pay any more taxes on anything. But the reality is we don't want to overdo taxes because there should be some limits. But are they going to go to finally, at some point, where they're talking state, federal, city, are our taxes going to go to things that really need to be fixed?
Correct.
That's how I feel, too.
I feel
stop
like,
taking, I don't want to pay any more taxes if they're not going to go to the education or fixing the roads
or
the health care, whatever we need going on.
And I feel like, you know, what I'm talking about is I will push to expand revenues that don't rely on taxes. I will cut where I need to cut, no matter what interest group I have to take on to do it. And there might be some rough days at the office, but we're going to do it. And I'm going to take that line item veto to the budget, too. You know, this mayor's got a real big stick with that line item veto.
He's got a huge stick.
And that can only be overridden with 6 out of 7 votes.
I know, this is real interesting.
No, we're going to cut that waste out. But in the end, I think that the people in New London will be confident that if I propose a budget, they're going to know that I cut everything I could, that we generated revenue from every source we could, that the money that, if there was an increase, needed to happen is going to go to stuff that needs to get done, and I think they're going to have confidence in it. Because I think people are willing to say, yeah, I want to invest in New London. Because, you know, the people who just gave up on New London, you know, who don't think it really is ever going to change, they left. Wow. The people that are still sticking it out here, somewhere deep down inside, they want to see something happen.
I think it's also important, I think people want to see that small local businesses are going to be helped. The small local businesses in all the towns, not just are getting killed. They're trying to, they're getting crushed.
Everybody's getting crushed.
And I know that I have some, you know, personal interest in that, but we're getting crushed.
Well, well, it's across the country. We're not the only ones.
No, we're not.
We've got a hard way to go. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I got 2 minutes left. I'm going to give you about a minute of that to say whatever you want to my audience. But before that, I want to thank you for coming again. I'm glad you're a Democrat, and that I've got 3 of you that I can choose from this year. And you know, and it seems that you're having good debates. And I know Rob is a little bit upset with me. I'm going to ask him on my show again. Of course, it's always good to talk.
Politics.
It's called politics, but that's the way it is. But I'm a Democrat anyway, so I'm going to vote for one of the three of you guys, Mike, or Daryl.
There you go.
So I'm going to give you a minute.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay. And
well, what I'll say to the viewers that are watching is that, you know, contrasts are going to be drawn in this campaign. This is an election. It's a new kind of election in New London, where we're actually running for a job that's going to have real authority over the city. So I'm going to say what I want to do, and where I disagree with my opponents, I'm going to say where I disagree. But those disagreements are not personal. I don't take the criticisms of me personally, and the criticisms I make of them are not personal. I know each of these individuals. I like them. They have good families. We get along. We've had a few debates. But I am not afraid to take on the status quo in New London, because that's the only way that I believe we're going to get the change we need, that we're going to get the new leadership that we need. But I want to make it very, 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 very clear that this is not about personality. This is about what's best for our city. And we need to have this debate. This is the first election that we've had like this in 100 years. And if we're going to get it right, this is the moment where New London could really take off. But we're going to have a good debate so that the people know who's the best person to vote for.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father Russ. Anytime.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you. All right.
See you guys next week. Thank you.